Amara Lewis had never believed a heart could make a sound when it cracked, but the night she discovered Jordan's betrayal, she swore she heard hers shatter like glass. 6 years of love, plans, and whispered promises, all ruined in a single moment when she walked into the restaurant and saw him holding another woman the way he used to hold her. Now, weeks later, the warmth that once defined her had dimmed. Amara, a warm-hearted, ambitious black woman in her late 20s, was known for her honesty and quiet resilience, but even her closest friends could see the exhaustion in her eyes. The breakup hadn't just hurt her, it had stolen her trust, her dreams, and the belief that love was something safe. So she redirected her life. No more romance. No more vulnerability. Her focus shifted entirely to survival, rebuilding herself, helping her mother pay off long-standing debts, and trying to regain the stability the heartbreak had shaken loose. That was when he appeared. Damian Hale. 35. Billionaire. CEO of Hale Tech, one of the most powerful tech empires in the country. He had a reputation that made board members stand straighter and women step carefully, cold, unreadable, brilliant, and terrifyingly detached. His eyes gave nothing, his voice rarely lifted above calm command, and affection seemed like a foreign language to him. People whispered about him everywhere he went. A man betrayed too many times. A man who no longer believed in human intentions. A man who felt nothing. So when Amara received a message requesting a private meeting with him, she went only because turning down a billionaire wasn't the kind of trouble she could afford, not now. She expected a job offer, maybe a business proposal. What she got instead was a contract. Damian needed a wife. Not for companionship, not for romance, but for power, a marriage that would secure his legal position in an upcoming inheritance dispute and solidify his control over the company board. His proposal was blunt, delivered in that perfectly steady voice of his. He would clear her family's debts. He would give her long-term financial security. He would protect her from anyone who tried to interfere in her life. In exchange, she would stand beside him as his wife for a set period of time. No strings. No emotions. No expectations. Amara stared at him, stunned by the cold efficiency of the offer, and by how much she needed exactly the kind of stability he was offering. She didn't have the heart for love anymore. Not after Jordan. Not after everything she'd lost. And maybe that was why she said yes. Not because she wanted Damian. Not because this felt like fate. But because she was exhausted, of struggling, of hurting, of hoping, and this marriage of convenience felt like a clean, emotionless escape. Little did she know, she was about to thaw the coldest man she had ever met, and he would end up loving her more fiercely, more deeply, more completely than anyone ever had. The wedding happened on a quiet Thursday morning, so quietly that even the sky outside Damian Hale's estate seemed muted. No flowers. No guests. No music. Just a judge, 2 signatures, and a silence so thick Amara felt it tighten around her throat. She stood beside Damian at the long marble table, her hands cold, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Damian, on the other hand, was a sculpture, still, composed, untouched by nerves or doubt. The navy suit he wore fit him like he was carved into it, and yet there was something distant in the way he held himself, as though the ceremony was merely an item on his schedule. Sign here, the judge instructed. Amara's hand trembled as she picked up the pen. She wasn't scared of Damian, but she was terrified of what this step meant. Terrified that this decision, like her last relationship, would change her life in ways she couldn't easily undo. Still, she signed. Damian didn't hesitate. His name flowed across the paper in smooth, controlled strokes. And just like that, they were married. No kiss. No vow. Not even a glance shared between them. The judge congratulated them with a mechanical smile and left with the same quiet efficiency with which he arrived. Amara stood there for a moment, trying to breathe, trying to feel something. Relief? Fear? Hope? She wasn't sure. Damian broke the silence first. Your room is ready, he said, voice low and calm. If there's anything you need, inform Charles. He handles all arrangements. Your room. Not our room. Right. She had expected that. Thank you, she managed, though the words felt thin. Damian studied her for a long moment, observing, assessing, unreadable. I know this transition won't be easy, he said. If you feel overwhelmed at any point, inform me. I prefer clarity. It wasn't tenderness. But it wasn't coldness either. It was consideration, in Damian Hale's own unfamiliar language. Amara nodded. He dipped his head once in acknowledgement, then turned and walked down the hallway, his footsteps echoing softly against the polished floors. He didn't look back. The mansion's quiet. A butler, Charles, led her through the grand estate. The mansion was breathtaking, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist decor, and a stillness that felt beautiful but unbearably lonely. Every surface gleamed, untouched, like a museum where emotions weren't allowed. Mr. Hale prefers order, Charles said gently as they walked, as if reading her thoughts. I can see that, Amara replied with a small smile. Her room was larger than her entire apartment had been. A soft cream palette, a balcony, and a bathroom filled with marble. Luxurious. Comfortable. Yet somehow empty. Charles handed her a small envelope sealed with the Hale Tech insignia. Mr. Hale asked me to give you this. Inside was a credit card with her name on it, a set of keys, and a short handwritten note. Damian's handwriting was precise, sharp, almost emotionless. You may acquire whatever you need for your comfort. D.H. Amara sighed. Kind, in the coldest way possible. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the card. Staring at the space she now occupied as a billionaire's wife. 1 month ago, she had been planning a life with Jordan. Today, she belonged to a stranger. Dinner with a man without expressions. It wasn't until that night that she saw Damian again. The dining room was long, elegant, and intimidating. Damian sat at the head of the table, posture perfect, eyes low as he scrolled through something on his tablet. He didn't look up when she entered, but he spoke immediately. You're late. She stiffened. I'm sorry. I wasn't aware dinner had a strict time. It doesn't, he said simply, finally lifting his gaze to her. But you should know, punctuality matters to me. Amara forced a small, polite smile. I'll remember that. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise? Approval? It was hard to tell. The meal was quiet at first. Too quiet. Amara cleared her throat. So? Today was, a lot. Damian cut his steak with perfect precision. I assume so. No regrets so far, she joked, trying to lighten the air. He paused. Looked up. I don't make decisions I regret. Her breath caught. That wasn't an answer, at least not an emotional one. But she realized he was trying. In his own rigid, disciplined way, he was trying to make sure she didn't feel unwelcome. Do you regret it? He asked suddenly. The question shocked her. She blinked. I don't know yet. Damian nodded once, accepting her honesty without offense. Fair. They ate in silence for another moment before he added, almost reluctantly, if anything makes you uncomfortable, you may tell me. That surprised her too. The world saw Damian Hale as a man carved from stone. Yet here he was, fumbling, quietly, around the idea of consideration. Thank you, she said softly. He didn't smile. She doubted he even knew how. But his gaze lingered on her a moment longer this time before he returned to his meal. A night of separate doors. After dinner, Damian walked her to the staircase. The atmosphere between them was awkward but strangely gentle. Good night, Mrs. Hale, he said. Her heart skipped, not because of romance, but because the title felt too heavy, too unreal. Good night, Damian, she replied. He hesitated. For a second, something softened in his eyes, something he quickly hid. Then he turned toward his own wing of the house, a separate hallway, a separate life, and disappeared behind a door that closed with a soft final click. Amara stood alone in the corridor, staring at the two doors between them. She had married a man she did not love, a man who did not claim to love her. But as she walked back to her room, she couldn't shake the strange feeling blooming quietly in her chest. That beneath Damian Hale's cold exterior, something else lived. Something wounded. Something waiting. Little did she know, she had already triggered the first crack in his walls. Amara woke before sunrise, startled by the unfamiliar softness beneath her. For a moment, she forgot where she was, the quiet luxury, the warm glow that filtered through sheer curtains, the silence too perfect to belong to the apartment she'd once shared with Jordan. Then it rushed back. Damian Hale's mansion. Her new life. Her new husband, somewhere behind one of the countless doors in this echoing place. She exhaled slowly, sitting up. Today she would explore the mansion, meet the staff properly, and hopefully begin to feel like she wasn't lost inside someone else's story. A gentle knock sounded at her door. "Mrs. Hale?" Charles's voice carried through, careful and formal. "Breakfast is served when you're ready." "Not come now." "Not Mr. Hale is waiting." Just, whenever she was ready. That small bit of freedom soothed her frayed nerves. The first morning. The dining room felt less intimidating without Damian's presence dominating it. The table was beautifully laid out, fresh fruit, omelets, pastries, tea. A quiet luxury she wasn't used to. She just sat down when she sensed movement. Damian entered. She straightened instinctively. He wore a black tailored suit, crisp and elegant, his hair combed back with precision. His eyes flicked to her almost immediately, as if checking she was actually there. "Good morning," he said, voice even but softer than the night before. "Morning," she replied, forcing a smile. He sat across from her, not at the far head of the table, and that alone made her blink. "Charles informed me you didn't have dietary restrictions," Damian said as he lifted his cup of coffee. "If that changes, let me know." "You remembered?" she asked. His brow lifted slightly. "I don't recall forgetting important information." It wasn't meant to be tender. But the fact he considered her breakfast preferences important information made something warm bloom in her chest. "So," Amara tried again, brushing her fork against her plate, "are your mornings usually this quiet?" "Yes." "Always?" "Yes." She suppressed a smile. "Do you ever relax?" He looked genuinely puzzled. "I'm relaxed now." She almost choked on her tea. Damian didn't react, but his eyes flickered to the corner of her mouth, as if checking she was okay. "I don't think this counts as relaxed," Amara murmured. "I'm not tense," he said defensively. "You're sitting like you're in a shareholders' meeting." He paused. Looked down at his posture. Adjusted, barely. A breath of a laugh escaped her. Damian watched her, eyes narrowing slightly in confusion at the sound. It was as if he were trying to understand why her laughter felt significant. "I have a meeting at 10, he said after a moment. "I won't be home until late. If you need anything, Charles will assist you." "Do I need permission to go out?" she asked lightly. "No. I'm your husband, not your warden." His gaze softened just a fraction. "You're free to do what you wish." That surprised her more than it should have. Damian finished his coffee and stood. For a split second, he hovered, uncertain, as if wanting to say something else. Then he nodded stiffly and left the room. Amara watched him go, her heart strangely unsettled. Exploring the mansion. With Damian gone, the mansion felt less intimidating. She wandered through its halls, admiring the quiet beauty, the art, the massive windows overlooking the gardens. She found the library first. It stole her breath. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, glass ladders, soft lighting. Cozy corners made for reading. A desk with neatly arranged documents, and, surprisingly, photographs. The only personal thing she'd seen of Damian so far. One photo showed him as a teenager, standing stiffly beside an older man with the same sharp jawline, likely his father. Their expressions were cold, formal, as if forced. Another was of a younger Damian with a group of business partners. They looked relaxed, except Damian, whose smile was so faint it was barely there. And then there was one with a woman. Beautiful, elegant, sophisticated. Damian wasn't touching her. She wasn't touching him. And yet something about her smile suggested they'd shared a story once. Amara's chest tightened unexpectedly. Jealousy? Already? No. She shook her head. Impossible. Still, the picture made her uneasy. She reached for it, curious. Mrs. Hale. She jumped. Charles stood in the doorway, his expression calm but tinged with apology. Forgive me. I didn't mean to startle you. Amara lowered her hand. No, it's fine. I was just looking. He stepped closer, lowering his voice slightly. Mr. Hale rarely enters this room. But he left these photos out intentionally. I believe he wanted you to feel welcome to explore. Her heart fluttered. Really? Charles smiled gently. He is a complicated man. But not unkind. Complicated was an understatement. An unexpected visitor. Later in the day, while reading in the sunroom, she heard the front doors open. A woman's sharp voice echoed through the hallway. Where is he? Damian told me he'd be available today. Amara froze. Footsteps approached, click, 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 high heels on marble. The woman from the photo stepped into view. Tall, blonde, icy blue eyes. The kind of beauty that looked expensive. She stopped short at the sight of Amara. Who are you? The woman demanded. Amara stood slowly. I'm Amara. Damian's assistant, the woman cut in, lips curled. Wife, Amara corrected. Silence fell like a blow. The woman's eyes widened, then hardened. Impossible. Damian Hale doesn't do wives. Well, Amara said, lifting her chin, he has one now. The woman stepped closer, gaze sweeping Amara from head to toe. Did he marry you out of pity? Or boredom? Amara's pulse spiked, but anger rose hotter. No, she said calmly. He married me because he wanted to. The woman's jaw clenched. I'm Victoria Hale, she snapped. Damian's ex-fiancée. Ex-fiancée? The word sliced through Amara like cold wind. Victoria smirked. And I'm here to see why he suddenly replaced me. Before Amara could respond, a voice echoed down the hall, calm, deep, unmistakable. Victoria. They turned. Damian stood there, expression unreadable, but his eyes were fixed on Amara, not Victoria. He walked straight to Amara's side, stopping close enough that she felt the heat of his presence. His next words stunned both women. She's my wife, Victoria. And I expect you to treat her with respect. Victoria's eyes widened. Damian. That's all, he said coldly. You can leave. The dismissal was absolute. Victoria's gaze darted between them, then she turned sharply and stalked out. Amara's breath trembled in her chest. When the doors finally closed, Damian turned to her, and for the first time since she met him, she saw something like emotion flicker in his eyes. Are you all right? He asked quietly. She nodded, still processing. Who was she to you? He hesitated. A long, heavy silence. Someone, he finally said, who mistook possession for love. And me? She asked before she could stop herself. Damian's gaze locked with hers, intense, searching, almost vulnerable. You, he said softly, are not a mistake at all. Amara felt her heart stumble in her chest. For the first time, Damian Hale wasn't cold. He was human. And she didn't know what scared her more. His warmth or her growing desire for it. Victoria's departure left a strange stillness hanging in the hallway. Amara stood frozen, Damian's last words echoing inside her. You are not a mistake at all. It felt like a secret she had never expected him to share, a piece of truth he didn't mean to reveal, but couldn't take back now. Damian cleared his throat softly, as if suddenly self-conscious. "Let's talk," he said, gesturing toward the quiet sitting room. Amara nodded and followed him, her heartbeat uneven. They sat across from each other on opposite ends of the sofa, too far, yet too aware of the distance between them. Damian was the first to speak. "I apologize for what happened today. Victoria shouldn't have come here. She's persistent." He paused. "And vindictive." Amara watched him carefully. "Were you close with her?" "No," Damian said immediately. "We were compatible on paper. She wanted the Hale name. I wanted silence." "And love?" Amara asked softly. Damian's gaze hardened, not with anger, but with old wounds. "Love has never been safe for me." Amara swallowed. "And do you think it's safe for me? After what I went through?" He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes lowered. "No. I don't expect you to trust me. I don't expect you to feel anything for me." He hesitated. "But I need you to know. I respect you. And I don't want this marriage to feel like a cage." His voice, usually so steady, carried something raw. Amara's chest tightened. She had seen Damian calm, cold, commanding. But vulnerability softened the sharp edges in ways that made him almost heartbreakingly human. "I don't feel trapped," she whispered. His head lifted, eyes meeting hers with a drop of hope he didn't try to hide quickly enough. "You don't?" he asked, voice barely above a breath. "No," she said, shifting closer. "But I am confused." "About what?" His tone was careful, almost afraid. "About you," she said. "About why you're different with me. And why it feels real." Damian exhaled shakily. The mask he wore, his armor, his protection, seemed to slip one piece at a time. "Because you don't want anything from me," he said. "You don't manipulate. You don't pretend. You don't try to impress me. You're honest. And I don't know how to handle that." He looked away as if ashamed. "I've built everything in my life on structure, logic, control. But with you." His voice cracked. "I feel things I don't understand." Amara's breath caught. "Damian," she whispered, sliding a little closer, "feelings aren't a weakness." "For me they are," he said bitterly. "Every time I cared for someone, they took something from me. My trust. My company. My peace." He looked at her. "I don't want to lose anything again." She reached out, touching his hand gently. "You won't lose me." His head tilted, disbelief flickering through his eyes. "Why?" "Because I know what it feels like to be broken," she said. "And I know what it means to rebuild yourself piece by piece. I'm not here to hurt you." A muscle in his jaw twitched. Slowly, cautiously, Damian turned his hand and intertwined their fingers. As if the world might shatter if he did it too fast. "Amara," he whispered, "I don't know how to be warm." "You don't have to be," she said with a soft smile. "You just have to be honest." He stared at her for a long moment, then something shifted in his eyes, a quiet surrender. "I want this marriage to be real," he confessed. Her breath stilled. "Real?" "Yes," he said. "Not transactional. Not temporary. Real." He swallowed hard. "I want you. Not as a contract. Not as a convenience. As my wife." Emotion gathered in her chest, swelling too fast to control. "Damian. You don't have to answer now," he said quickly. "I know you're healing. I know your past hurt you. I know I'm not easy to love." Amara shook her head. "But you are worth loving." Damian froze, like no one had ever said those words to him before. She slid even closer until their knees touched. His breath hitched, his composure cracking. "Damian," she whispered, "look at me." He did. And in that moment, she saw him, truly saw him. The guarded child he used to be. The wounded man he had become. And the husband he was trying to learn to be. "You're not cold," she said gently. "You're careful. And I understand that more than you know." For the first time, Damian Hale's expression softened completely. Not controlled. Not calculated. Just open. Then he cupped her cheek, slow and hesitant, as if asking permission with every inch of movement. When she didn't pull away, he let out a deep, unsteady breath. "Amara," he whispered, "I want to try with you." Her heart unfolded like a flower warming under sunlight. She leaned into his touch. "Then we try together. A new beginning." That night, Amara didn't return to her separate room. Damian didn't pull her into his. He offered his hand first. A choice. Not a demand. She took it. They walked side by side to his bedroom, no rush, no pressure, just quiet understanding between two people who had been broken in different ways but somehow fit perfectly in their imperfection. Inside, Damian paused. "If you want space." She placed a hand on his chest, over the heart he never let anyone touch. "I want you." His breath trembled. And he kissed her. Soft first. Almost afraid. Then deeper, like a man who had been starving for years but never dared to reach for what he wanted. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a promise. A beginning. A home. Epilogue. 1 year later. The mansion didn't feel cold anymore. Amara filled it with warm colors, flowers, music, life. And Damian, quietly, naturally, adjusted. He still worked long hours, still lived by structure, still guarded his emotions. But he wasn't cold. Not with her. Because every night he came home and looked for her first. Every morning he checked if she'd eaten. Every problem he faced, he trusted her opinion. Every hurt he carried, he let her soothe. One evening, as the sun painted the sky gold, Damian wrapped his arms around her from behind on the balcony. "Amara?" "Yes?" "I need to tell you something." She turned to him slowly. "What is it?" His eyes softened the way they only did for her. "I love you," he said. Simple. Quiet. True. Amara smiled, feeling her chest bloom with warmth. "I love you too." Damian exhaled, pulling her closer, as if receiving the thing he never believed he deserved. And Amara realized something. She hadn't just married a cold billionaire. She had healed one. And in doing so, she had healed herself too. Their marriage was no longer a contract. It was a choice. A forever.